Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining us and tuning in. We are excited to welcome you to Buckinghamshire's Skills Hub broadcast that's being held in honour of National Apprenticeship Week, which is an exciting week that aims to raise awareness of the many benefits that apprenticeship can give you and kind of advantages it can give in your career. It's another option, another thing to think about. So thank you for joining us. It's great to have you. To start today's session, we have a little bit of a presentation delivered by the Buckinghamshire Skills Hub, and we're kind of very excited to introduce you to Julia, who's going to take it away and kick off the session. So everyone, please welcome Julia.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I'm very excited to be able to present a bit of information to you about apprenticeships. So yeah, my name's Julia Bond and I work for the Buck Skills Hub. We support all the state secondary schools in Buckinghamshire, and it is specifically to improve the links between schools, students and businesses to offer the widest choice to young people of the possible career pathways open to them. We're wanting to help them and their parents pick their way through all of the information that's available to make informed decisions for the young person's best next step. Next slide, please. This evening we're focusing on apprenticeships, and we have got an amazing panel of young people lined up to talk to you about their experience of the apprenticeship pathway. Before we meet them properly, I'm going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes explaining some of the information you might like to know about apprenticeships. Next slide, please. Can you guess? I'd be interested to see if there's any input into the chat. Could anybody explain to me what you think all of these employers have got in common? Just take a moment to basically give your thought. First reaction. So I guess the answer is probably obvious, but they are all organisations that offer apprenticeships. Now, these are some pretty big names. I'm not going to lie, these all are regular providers of apprenticeships, as well all the armed forces, retailers, travel companies and so forth. They're about 50% of the offer of apprenticeships available in England. The other 50% will be local organisations to where you live in your town or your village where you live. So what you're going to find out from this session this evening is it is all about doing your research and making sure that you are very familiar with what's going on around you in your local area. Next slide, please. So another question for you, just to sort of get you thinking about it all really, is what are apprenticeships? Does anybody on the call, apart from the panel, have a view about what an apprenticeship actually is? Okay, so if you could hit the forward arrow or down arrow, Charlie. So essentially, an apprenticeship is a job. It is a paid role. You would be working for an employer to do real work, and I think we will find when we hear our panel in a bit, they will be able to describe to you some of the amazing work that they do as they're in their job. So there's a massive variety of tasks that could be done within an organisation, but because it's a job, you do get paid. So there is an income, there is a salary. There's some information out there, of course, that about, salaries vary. So there is a minimum salary that's not massively well paid, but the vast majority of apprentice employers or employers of apprentices, they will pay significantly more than the government specified minimum wage. So that is to be taken into consideration. It is an 80-20 split. So you'll be doing 80% of your time spent on the job and 20% of your time doing a bit of study. And depending on what level apprenticeship you are working towards, that study will take place in a variety of locations. It could be a college, it could be an independent training provider, it could be a university. An apprenticeship must last at least a year. It could be up to 4 years, could be slightly longer, again, depending on the level that you're studying at and working at. There are hundreds and hundreds of what are called apprenticeship standards. And I will show you a website where you can find where all of these are. But just about any job role that you can think of will have an apprenticeship associated with it. And the apprenticeship standard is there to try to safeguard the quality of the provision of that job. There's lots of progression available, lots of promotional opportunities, and lots of responsibility that would come your way. So from quite a young age, from age 16 or 18, depending on when you decide to get into an apprenticeship, you will be being responsible from the start. And again, I think we will hear a lot about that from our apprentices. Next slide, please. So we see here a diagram that explains the levels of qualifications. So it's worth just spending just a little bit of time just to try to understand this. So if we've got people on the call who are currently studying GCSEs, if you are likely to get a grade 4 or better, between 4 to 9 on a GCSE, 5 of those, if you get 5 level 4s or better, that counts as a level 2 qualification. And apprentices, we've got an apprentice on the call tonight who is studying a level 2 qualification. Level 3 qualifications tend to be A-level standard. So A-levels are a level 3 qualification. And level 4s and 5s are the intermediary foundation degree level qualifications, and then a level 6 is a degree, a bachelor's degree qualification. And the apprenticeships exist in all those levels, as you can see on the chart in front of us. So there's lots to go for. A thing to say about the levels though, if you are studying A-levels at the moment or level 3 qualifications at the moment, you might be doing a BTEC or something like that. It's worth noting that if you wanted to start an apprenticeship, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the next level up. You might say, well, I'd like it to be at the next level up, but it might be an appropriate thing for you to do to keep at a level 3 and work your way in and go up in a steady progression. There's no harm in working at the same level for a little bit longer if that suits you. So please don't discount looking at apprenticeships that are equivalent to the level you are studying at school at the moment. Next slide, please. So we've got various pathways to get into apprenticeships. You can see here on the slide, we have traineeships, work experience, T-levels. You might have started to hear quite a lot about that recently, and obviously applying for the vacancy directly. Next slide, please. So a traineeship, if you could click the forward arrow for me there, Charlie. You can see here that a traineeship is a way of getting experience in a company that is, it's not paid, it's a sort of a very well structured work experience program that could last for 6 weeks, could be up to 12 months. Generally speaking, they last for about 6 months, and it's an opportunity to get your foot in the door of an organisation in a very structured way, and it is very much about preparing you for the world of work. But because it is a traineeship, it's not a paid role. Next slide, please. Work experience. Again, if you are currently in school, you will know a lot about being asked to go find yourself some work experience. This is just, can't tell you enough the value of trying to get work experience in as much as you can, really. But even if it's only a few days or a week or 2 weeks or spread across a whole school year, work experience in an organisation that you think you might like to work for is going to be invaluable to you, and again will help you build connections in that company to allow you to inquire with them whether they offer apprenticeships. Next slide, please. And then we have T-levels. So this is a relatively new qualification. It's been around a couple of years now, and the range of T-levels that's being offered are growing and growing and growing. I'll show you on the next slide in a minute the range of T-levels that's available, but you can see on the picture here, it's an 80-20 split of 80% time spent in the class versus 20% out in work. That 20% looks like a 45-day work placement. So if you want to start to go down the vocational route, this would be offered as an A-level equivalent form of study and would get you a 45-day work placement as well, which again is an amazing lead up to an apprenticeship. Next slide, please. So if hopefully you can see that when we share the broadcast, you'll be able to zoom in and see that hopefully quite clearly. But as you can see, that there are a lot of T-levels available, and some of them are available now, some of them will be available later this year. The best place for studying T-levels in Buckinghamshire at the moment is at Bucks College. At any of their 3 campuses. They offer the biggest range of T-levels currently. But lots of links there, as you can see, to go and explore T-levels in more detail if you think that's something for you as a stepping stone into an apprenticeship. Next slide, please. So here's just a little pictogram to show you the kinds of examples of apprenticeships that exist. It's a huge range. So you can see there are highly academic, or what you would consider to be highly academic roles being offered through this vocational route, as well as the more sort of hands-on standard of apprenticeships that you might expect to do with construction or hair and beauty or hospitality. But the range is huge. So please consider all of your options when you are deciding what your next steps will be, either after your GCSEs or after your A-level or BTEC studies. Next slide, please. This slide is to give you an indication of what the degree or the higher, so level 4 or degree, which is level 6 type apprenticeships can offer you, because of course, as we know, as you go up the education tree, the qualifications become more and more expensive. So it's worth noting that there are universities, the majority of universities offer foundation courses and degree level courses as apprentices, and what that means really is that you're going to be paid to go to university. Your employer will pay for you to go, and they will pay for your course. The thing that's worth bearing in mind, though, is that it's hard. It's a hard option because you also have to undertake your job. So please be aware that this route is for people who have decided that working hard is for them, because you do have to nail both your job and the qualification at the same time. But the financial gain and the work experience gain is well worth it. Next slide, please. So applying for apprenticeships, could you press the forward arrow for me, Charlie? Thank you. Okay, so if you wanted to apply for an apprenticeship, the steps are quite easy. There is a website called Find an Apprenticeship. I'll show you a QR code for that in just a sec that you can click on. Once you've got into Find an Apprenticeship, it's a government website. Once you're in, you can set all sorts of filters and alarms to allow you to be told when a vacancy for a particular apprenticeship comes on stream, because what we must be aware of here is that employers will post vacancies when it suits them. They are not particularly worried about conforming to A-level or degree personal statement deadlines and so forth. If they have a need, they will advertise their vacancy. So it's useful to set those alarms on the Find an Apprenticeship website so that you know when these vacancies come up. It says here, do your research. Absolutely. Contact the companies. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and have a chat to somebody in the HR department, human resources department in those companies, because they will welcome a conversation with you. So next slide, please. So here's the QR code to get yourself onto the Find an Apprenticeship website. In Buckinghamshire, we are in the South region, so choose that and then set your filters and off you go. There are other websites as well that you can search for apprenticeships. Get My First Job, Not Going to Uni, and Indeed also offer search engines for apprenticeships, but this one is the government standard, I suppose. Next slide, please. If you're a parent on the call, these are some resources that you might be interested in to help you pick your way through all of the information that we've discussed this evening. There is a podcast on the Amazing Apprenticeships website. Again, I'll post these links for you in the chat in just a minute. But you can also access them straight from this slide using the QR code. There are weekly publications for it's called the Parent and Carer Toolkit, and they are available every week. And then the Amazing Apprenticeships website has a plethora of resources to help you work out the right way to go about applying for apprenticeships. Next slide, please. If you want to know more, two suggestions for you. Firstly, come to the Buck Skills Show. It's on Wednesday, the 6th of March this year at Stoke Mandeville Stadium from 4 till 8 p.m. There will be a lot of organisations there who are offering apprenticeships. So come and talk to anybody in all the different sectors, and they will be very happy to explain to you what their apprenticeship offer is. The link to book yourself a free ticket is on the slide just there. And the other thing to do is to get yourself onto the Amazing Apprenticeships website for accessing all those resources that I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. Or I think that's it.
I do believe that is your last slide.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for listening, and it's been a pleasure explaining that to you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them. And I'm looking forward now to listening to the apprentices and what they have to say.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Julia. I definitely covered all the basics there. So thank you for doing that. We're going to start then and hear from our first apprentice, who is called Emily. Emily works for, works, I guess that's the right word. You do work and you do learn Softcat. So Emily, tell us a little bit about your apprenticeship and what it is you're doing and about it.
Hi, so I'm currently taking a level 3 business administration apprenticeship. It's about 12 to 18 months and I study all the core aspects of business operations. So some of the topics I will be studying and have studied include communication methods, organizational structures, and the different benefits that they have for a business. We also learn all about project management, and as an IT company, we study a lot of different IT skills and programs that we can use to help us in our daily lives and in our job. I chose to do an apprenticeship because I'm not so great at studying in a classroom. I soak in a lot more information through practical skills and practical work. So it's just really, really beneficial to spend 80% of my time working in a job role rather than reading words off a screen that I'll forget the next day. In Softcat, I am a resource planner. So I work within our service engagement department, and I'm responsible for managing and organising our consultants and supporting our sales team. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a bit of a question for you then. Obviously you said you work a lot better through kind of that practical side. What does the classroom side look like for you then?
So we are given 6 hours of apprenticeship time a week, and it's up to me to manage how and when I take that time. So some people I know choose one full day to focus purely on their studies. Other people find it better to do 2 hours or 3 hours at a time so they can spread it out across the week. We then also have 2-hour classroom sessions online, and that will be about once every 2 weeks, where we'll go through all the topics we're studying with an actual teacher to make sure that we are retaining the information and learning and using it in our job role.
Yeah, it's nice. It sounds like you get a little bit of kind of like, used to hate this when teachers would say it, but independent learning, where you're
Yeah.
kind of in charge of it yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely. I quite like the fact that I can take my laptop and I can go and study in a cafe in my own kind of environment.
Yeah, definitely. Was never a fan of classrooms either when I was when I was in school. All right, well, thank you for that little bit of an introduction. If anybody has any questions about this, please do keep those coming in our Q&A function. Submit as many as you like, and if you have any questions for Emily, she can answer those a little bit later on. But we are going to move on to our next speaker, who's also part of Softcat. And they're going to talk about their experience with the same company, but obviously a slightly different apprenticeship. So, Daniel, are you there?
Hello, yes.
Hello.
So I am also in a level 3 apprenticeship with Softcat, which the official title would be an IT technical salesperson. So my apprenticeship is provided through a different company as opposed to Emily's. So the way we kind of train and have our off the job side of things is slightly different. We have almost like a planner, so to speak, online, and we will submit what we're doing, how it links to the job role, and how it links to the apprenticeship. Now, on top of that, every 2 months or so, we have a trip down to the apprenticeship providers training centre. We'll spend 3-4 days there, directly with a mentor, a teacher, if you will, teaching us about our varying sales skills. This will cover things along the lines of kind of the IT side of things. How do laptops work? What are they built of? Everything kind of network related, which is like your Wi-Fi and that side of things. And then we also have sessions on negotiation skills, communication skills, and that side of things as well. So my specific role within Softcat is a public sector account manager. So I work with education, schools, colleges, and this is mostly about building what we call an account base. So I have to find new clients, build a relationship with those clients, and then retain those clients. And the skills used in each different stage vary a surprising amount, funnily enough. And that's kind of where the apprenticeship then comes in. They teach us these different skills, show us where to use the different ones. Now, my path into a sales apprenticeship was, I'm going to say fairly stereotypical. Kind of nearing the end of high school, I watched the film The Wolf of Wall Street, very popular, and I've talked to a lot of people who are the exact same as me on this. You watch it and it feels kind of infectious. So I started speaking around, what job is this? How do I learn about this? How do I do it? And I met somebody in sales who recommended Softcat directly, which is where I then went into our application stage. So this may have been kind of a slightly different pathway as to what a lot of people will find. I didn't see Softcat on the government website or on Find an Apprenticeship. I kind of heard about it through word of mouth. And something that is good about that is it allows me to have somebody for support outside of the apprenticeship, what the mentors teach us and all that side of things. Now, I mentioned before as well, when we go on these training trips every 2 months or so, kind of brushed over the fact that we're there with a mentor or a teacher. So I thought I'd address that because it's a classroom situation and it's not for everyone. I was not the biggest fan of high school. I did go to college for 2 years, sit all my exams, and again, I was not the biggest fan. But it's definitely not a classroom situation. It's very kind of one-to-one, interactive, engaging, and everything was based around the conversation, which I felt, especially in my role, dealing with clients and customers on a daily basis. The simple situation there helps with those communication skills and all that side of the apprenticeship. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. It sounds really interesting. And it's great that, you know, it's a completely different side of things to Emily, but you both work for the same sort of umbrella company. So yeah, really interesting. And again, any questions that are coming in for Daniel, please do keep those submitted. And once everyone's had a chat, we'll kind of move over to him. But next then is Ellie, and she is currently doing one with All Spring Media. So Ellie, tell us about your apprenticeship.
Hi everyone, so I'm currently on the level 4 PR and comms apprenticeship. So public relations is an area that isn't really taught in schools. It's not an area that I ever knew anything about, to be honest. But essentially it is raising the profile of a brand through building up your relationships with the community, with stakeholders, clients, and kind of it's a bit similar to marketing, but it's more reliant on kind of those relationships. So I came across the apprenticeship when I was already working at All Spring Media and I decided I wanted to learn something new. And they're a great employer, so they kind of looked into the apprenticeship with me and I just got started on it really. So I was really lucky the way that I kind of stumbled across it. With the training, it's very independent, like most apprenticeships. In this case, with PRCA, who is my training provider, they have a whole list of training topics that you have to cover at some point during the apprenticeship, and they'll run those at specific dates throughout the year. So it's just a case of booking yourself onto them, which is amazing because it's really flexible and you can work it around your work life too. So they both come hand in hand and work very well together. So you learn about crisis management. So if a company or celebrity was to go into a crisis, it's kind of how to repair their reputation. You learn about how to deliver campaigns, how to communicate through blogs and newsletters, influencer relations. It's a whole load, but it really does teach you everything you need to know to work in the role. And studying with PRCA, there's a whole load of benefits that come with that. So they hold networking events where you can meet people in the industry. I've made so many connections just through attending the events and just chatting to as many people as you can, really. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I'm currently about to sit my assessments. I'm in my assessment stage at the moment. So I'm about to submit my report and then go through the other assessment days too. But it's 15 months of training and then a further 3 months for your endpoint assessments.
Best of luck with those assessments. I'm sure you'll smash them. It sounds like a lot of fun and great that you actually get out there and you get some of that kind of real life experience before you even end and are finished with all those assessments. So yeah, sounds like great fun. Again, questions, do keep those coming. I know we have loads that have been pre-submitted. We'll get around to as many as we can. Our next speaker is going to be Ben. So Ben is coming, and he's currently studying a level 2 with BCG. So Ben, would you like to come on and tell us a little bit about your apprenticeship?
Hello, you all right? Yeah, so basically I'm doing an apprenticeship in carpentry and joinery level 2. Yeah, it's really good. Apprenticeships are a really good way to learn on the job. Obviously you get paid whilst you're learning, and they're good as well if you don't get on with sitting in a classroom all day and you actually want to get that experience, then I'd always recommend an apprenticeship.
Was that like the main feature that made you choose? You have quite a practical apprenticeship, so was it really that you didn't want to go into that educational route and you wanted to kind of do something that kept you on your feet and kept you busy that made you choose this?
No, it was more of a thing when I was leaving school. Everyone was applying for stuff and I didn't really know what to apply for, so I did a level 1 full-time college course on carpentry and joinery, and then it was after that I was like, the next stage for me, after enjoying it and getting on well with the course, I was like, the next stage for me would be to actually do it and go out on site and learn it in a practical way.
What do you think then are some of the skills that you've developed so far, like the top sort of skills that you've been learning while doing this?
Probably dedication and perseverance, because the wage is it's pretty rubbish. So you got to persevere, because a lot of people, like I know a lot of people that they've had to give up their apprenticeships because they can't afford to do it. So yeah, you got to make it work. Like whether or not it's, you got to, if you're in a trade like I am, when you're an apprentice, really, you're not going to be able to afford fuel and stuff like that. So you're going to have to work weekends. It's kind of the way it goes. You have to do, like, for the year, second year, I do all weekends, try and do both days. So you don't really catch a break, but you keep going and it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, you're putting in the hard work now in the hopes that you'll leave, qualified, right? To be able to kind of go out there and to be able to do that, which doesn't always happen with other pathways.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Again, any questions about that kind of practical carpentry or anything around for Ben, do get those submitted. We're going to go to our next speaker, Jonathan, who's going to come and talk to us about a really interesting apprenticeship. It's got a really interesting name, so I'm going to leave him to explain it to us.
So I work for Sumitomo DMAG, and the course I'm doing is a mechatronics maintenance course. So basically it's just mechanical and electrical engineering, really. So the company itself, we do injection molding machines, so the things that make anything plastic, from razors to bottles to anything like that. So my first year is foundation competence, so basically it's the level 2. So this course will be level 3. So the first year is all level 2 stuff. It will be 3 days at college, as opposed to the others who, they have 1 day and they can do it as and when. And then 2 days at work where I've basically learned about the company. So I've gone around all of the departments, the parts department, sales department, you name it. I've basically been in their operationals. So yeah, it's been a really good experience for myself. I've been able to learn about the company from the inside and what each department do, as opposed to just being stuck in with the engineers. And today is actually my last day of 3 days a week at college. So I will now be going to my second year, which is 1 day a week. and that will basically be more advanced things in engineering, so like the maths and stuff. And then I'll be out on the road with the other engineers.
Do you kind of enjoy that then, the fact that, you know, the more years you put in, the less sort of classroom time is based and the more of the practical? How have you found that? Do you think that's a good balance, and did that work for you?
Yeah, so I've not been so good in the classroom like everyone else, but luckily the foundation competence is mostly practical within the college. So it's literally from the bottom of engineering. You learn how to use a hand file, you learn how to use skill saws and stuff like that, and milling and turning machines, which looks scary, but because we're with a qualified and trained instructor, he basically goes through all the safety checks and does a really good job at teaching all of, like myself and all of the other apprentices that are there.
Good. Thank you for talking to us a little bit about your apprenticeship. Definitely interesting. It's got such a fancy name, but I love that engineering, and so many young people are really interested in that. So our next speaker then is Neka, and she's currently with Screen Skills, studying an apprenticeship and doing a placement at Amazon. So yeah, let's hear about it. What's your experience?
Hiya. So my apprenticeship is level 3 assistant accountant apprenticeship, and the role that I have is the assistant production accountant, and I'll be on a production with the accounts team, and we will be doing the bookkeeping, we'll be doing the paying wages, so payroll. I've been involved in expenses, so anytime someone is on the like has to pay for anything on a TV show or the film, and we have to reimburse them, I'll be helping out the team with that. So it's a lot of bookkeeping. If people like numbers, it's a good role to do, and it's a good job to have. I would say my job is more of the start of it, and then once you build up, you can go to the production accountant, so you'll be overseeing the whole team, and then you can go up to financial controller. And once you're the financial controller, you have a bit more responsibility. You'll be involved in the decision makings of the production. So if there are changes that need to be made for the TV show, so say a location we're not able to use, the financial controller and the line producer and all of the big execs would be in meetings to discuss that. So.
And how did you find your kind of apprenticeship? How did you come across it?
I stumbled upon it. So I wanted to go into finance, and I was going to do a graduate scheme, because I've already gone to university, but I had done something completely different. And I basically was watching a film, and I saw in the credits rolling that there was a production accountant. So I searched online and saw that Screen Skills was like kind of giving information of how to become a production accountant, and I saw that they had an apprenticeship, and I signed up for the newsletter, and once it was time for me to apply, I applied and I got it. So yeah.
I love that you mentioned newsletters, because very often with apprenticeships, they only take on placements certain times in the year. So
Yes.
Signing up for those newsletter, right, is the way to get notified that the applications are open. So yeah, dead key. Thank you. Well done. Happy you mentioned that. We're going to move on then to our final apprentice, Sam, who's going to talk a little bit about their experience as well.
Hiya. Yeah, so I was on a level 4 apprenticeship with Amazon Prime and Screen Skills, actually, as a post-production technical operator, which is basically the same as a edit assistant, which is in TV production and broadcast. So I will receive the media from a shoot, and then I'll ingest that into the edit systems, prepare that for the editors, sync it if necessary, just so that the editor can use and go from there. With the apprenticeships for TV production, it was quite hard to get the 80% and 20% on the job and off the job. So the way we did it was 3 blocks of 3-week training, and then we'd be on our placements full time from then, just so that they weren't taking us off productions and things like that. I've now finished my apprenticeship and I've stayed on at the company that I was at, ITN, as an edit assistant, and I'm getting opportunities to edit and color grade, which is fantastic. Like it's what I want to go into. So from a experience standpoint, an apprenticeship is definitely the way to go if you know what you want to go into and there's a way into the industry that you want like that.
So as like a follow-up question then, what was that transition like from being kind of on the apprenticeship to kind of completing it and just working?
Well, the apprentice itself was definitely hard work. I mean, it's working full time and doing tasks for your off the job, so it's not easy. So I guess the biggest change was just having a bit more time, like just going to work normally and then just coming home and not having to think about anything else. That was definitely the biggest change and relief.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me what Ben said about having to really put the work in for those years, because it's not just a job and not just education, it is balance of both.
Definitely.
So yeah, great to see it's not just, it's kind of across apprenticeships. Hard work is going to be key there. Okay, thank you for telling us about the apprenticeship. We're going to move into the panel and start asking questions. So of all our apprentices, be ready, because I can call out your name any second and ask you a question. So yeah, let's prep there. We're going to start then with, we've had loads of questions come in. Emily, you've had a question that's come in for you. And this person has asked, how old were you when you first started the apprenticeship? And did you start straight after you did your GCSEs? And how did you find working with your company?
So I actually took some time out. I got a job in Tesco and I worked my way for a few years there. So I'm one of the oldest apprentices in my intake. I'm 24. And yeah, so
yeah. How did you find your company? So how did you find
Softcat? I spent a long time going through all of those websites, all the government websites, and talking to people. I also went on YouTube and kind of found other people who would do the research for you and talk about each company. I know somebody within Softcat already and had heard about how good the company is. So when I found the Softcat apprenticeship on the government website, I knew straight away that I wanted to apply and submitted an application on their website directly.
All right. Okay, thank you. Jonathan, then, question for you next. What tips would you give someone if they are preparing to complete an application now? What would your top tips be, reflecting on your own experiences?
So when I applied for my apprenticeship, I put in all of my work experience that I had. So previously I did another apprenticeship in construction as a bricklayer, and I didn't feel like that job was for me. So when I did apply, my company basically, so what I'm trying to say, they oh, my mind went a bit frazzled there.
It's all right, happens to us all.
Yeah, so the experience really counts. They show how dedicated you are to, going in an industry, and it doesn't really matter what industry you want to go in. So because I had prior experience on a construction site, they knew I was probably mature enough to handle more responsibility. As well as this, I you know, just be honest with them. You know, they asked about my hobbies and stuff. And even if I thought they didn't like it, you know, they wanted to know more about the person that I am rather than my experience as well.
All right. Thank you for answering that one. Our next question then, Sam, I'll ask this one to you. Do you get to interact with, you know, other people that would, say if you were doing a kind of standard course, you know, whether that's a uni degree or a college course or whatever the equivalent would be to the apprenticeship you're studying, do you get the same level of social interaction with like your peers that you would when studying an apprenticeship, or is it a little bit different?
It's definitely different in my experience. I studied at London South Bank Uni, but that doesn't mean it was the uni experience. We had our, like I said, our 3-week blocks with other apprentices on the same course, but working on different placements. So you could kind of socialize and interact with people that were doing this similar things, you know, had similar thoughts and similar passions. So on that aspect, it was definitely, there was still interaction and, you know, socializing, but it's different. Yes.
All right, okay, thank you for answering that question. How about this next one to you then, Daniel? Oh, I've got loads of questions here. It's about picking them. You're all answering them super quick. So, okay, how about this, Daniel? For your apprenticeship, was there any minimum kind of like academic requirements that you had to study, and were maths and English included within that? Was there a way to apply if you didn't have those levels in maths and English?
Yeah, there was. So I'll slightly touch on one of the other questions as well. So I'm 18 and I started this apprenticeship straight out of college, had my lovely long summer holiday and started the apprenticeship. And the requirements were your 5 GCSEs at a pass, so a 4 to a 9, including maths and English. While I don't mind maths, English is not a strong point. So when my apprenticeship provider told me I was going to have to pass the maths and English exam to a certain level, my heart sunk. This was not as hard as I had expected, and the requirements were fairly low and they were suited to everybody. So what I mean by that is there was the maths and the English. I'm hesitant to say exam because it wasn't quite an exam, quiz maybe. However, if you did fail those, there was another option. So say for the English perspective, I did fail the requirement exam. However, there was also the option to write kind of page worth of writing around the same topics to demonstrate you have the kind of your SPAG skills and your basic knowledge there. But it's something that has been, for me personally, like a lot of support from not only my company, my manager, Softcat, but also my training provider. There's kind of constant emails checking in. Do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? And we constantly look back throughout the apprenticeship at how we use our maths and English skills in the workplace. So it's, while there is the requirements, they weren't horrendously strict.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I know that sometimes maths and English can be like the worst thing that people have to try and do when they're studying the GCSEs. So yeah, it's great. Thank you for answering that question. Neka, then a question for you. We've had someone here that's asked about salary ranges. And obviously, sometimes when studying apprenticeships, I think the wage can be a little bit lower. Do correct me if I'm wrong. How have you found that experience? And will you find that when you finish your apprenticeship that your salary might go up a little bit, or how will that work?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just froze for a second there, but you're back.
Okay. My salary was London living wage, so whatever that is currently now, that was okay. But once I was on production, the production was kind enough to like supplement with like a living allowance and etc. But once, because I've already finished my apprenticeship and I'm taking some time out, but in TV and film, people get paid weekly. So once you start working and you'll be getting money each week, 1 week in arrears, and the starting salary, I would say, it depends on your job role. So if you go in and you're a cashier, you'll be, I don't know, like maybe 600 per week. But if you go in for like a higher position due to your experience, and say you are like the payroll accountant, it could be like 1,000, 1,300 per week. So it ranges, and that's just the pay. There are also like living allowance that could be 100 per week. There's computer allowance. There could be other allowances for the role depending on where the production is and how, if you had to really like move temporarily to work on the production, or if you're local. So yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for answering that one. Our next question then is going to be for Ellie. Ellie, the question for you is, how supportive were your kind of parents, carers, family about you choosing to do the apprenticeship? I know sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma and people always want to go to college or university. What was your family like when you said you wanted to do this?
So I started my apprenticeship when I was 21, and to be honest, they were completely fine about it. I mean, they never really pushed uni that much. Because I went to a grammar school, then all of my friends went to uni, so I was the only one out of my whole kind of group of friends that didn't go. But I wouldn't say that there was any kind of pressure or influence or opinion from kind of family, which is really great, because I know that obviously it is quite a push from some families that you go to uni. But yeah, so all my friends went to uni, which was completely fine. Like, I didn't feel like I missed out on anything from that point of view, and they enjoyed their experience. But it's just, it depends on what works best for you, really.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's definitely good that, I think apprenticeships are becoming like more kind of accepted, and people aren't as like scared of the word now. Like, they're becoming, more and more companies are offering them, but there's still just a little bit about the process, which is mystery. So yeah, thanks for answering that one. We have time, I think, for about one more kind of question before we have to look at ending and kind of wrapping up the session. So Sam, would you like to kind of answer this one? Hopefully you can. It might be a little bit difficult, but we'll see. Someone said, do you think it's worth applying for an apprenticeship if I already have a level 2? Is there any benefits that doing like the same level again as part of an apprenticeship?
Yeah, I'd definitely say the experience you get is invaluable. Like, that goes far beyond the qualification that you get, in my opinion. Especially in my industry, it's very much experience based, and people will pick others over people with degrees and big qualifications if they don't have experience. So if you're looking at doing the same level, I think the question is more, is the experience I'm going to get more beneficial towards the industry that I'm working in, as opposed to what it says on the certificate that you get at the end, for example.
Definitely. And we'll stay with you then, because you're here and you're on screen. As we kind of look to wrap up the end session, could you summarise your experience as a whole as being an apprentice in just a couple of words for me?
A great first step through the door, I think. I mean, it's brilliant for getting you into the industry and exposed to how it works, and just getting a job to start with, I think. Yeah, great first step.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, sir. All right, Daniel, you're next. Same question. Summarize your experience in a couple of words for us.
For my role specifically, I think interesting is the word to go for. Just everything about it is new, different, weird. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Jonathan, you're up next. A couple of words.
Personally, for me, I think challenging. During my apprenticeship, I've been able to challenge myself and push myself forward, doing tasks that I never thought I'd really do. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Emily, how about you then? Summarize your apprenticeship.
Probably have to say fun and empowering. Getting to learn at the same time as giving that leeway to learn and make mistakes, and the company really helps like push you up and encourages you to go out of your comfort zone and do as much as possible.
Love that. Empowering. What a nice word. Thank you. Neka, then what about you?
I would say insightful. I was able to kind of understand the industry a bit better with all of the trainings and the workshops, and obviously having that experience of working, it was just so beneficial that I was able to see what's out there and how I could improve like my network and how I could venture onto different things. So yeah, very, very insightful.
Love it. Thank you. And then last but not least, Ellie, would you like to summarize your apprenticeship in a couple of words?
I'd say it's been really helpful because I've learned so much on it, and also it's shown me how much responsibility I can take on and all the opportunities that opens up.
All right, I love it. Thank you so much. It's been really great kind of having you all on and being able to listen to all your opinions. As we wrap up today's session, Julia, do you have anything you'd like to say before we close down?
Thank you. All I was going to say was, what an amazing bunch of young people you are. I have absolutely loved listening to all of your answers, and yeah, just very impressed and secretly quite jealous. I wish I could wind the clock back 30 years and be in your shoes. Anyway, well done.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining today's session. It's been wonderful to have you kind of join us, and thank you for sending in all of your questions. A feedback link has been shared in the Q&A thread, so if you have a couple of moments, please do just get a chance to complete that. It's really helpful for us and really enables us to kind of reflect and shape these events to make them better for next time. I'm losing my words here. It's getting on in the day. I think I'm getting a bit tired. But thank you for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you, and we'll see you later.